at a staff member, could we please have Slow put on this channel as well? No worries, House. This is Fictionkin versus Fictionhearted. I am so glad to be doing this with you guys. Right, so if everybody can hear me, I would love if you guys could ping me in the QA channel if you have any questions that we want to touch on today. Otherwise, I will try to keep up with how fast this chat goes. Otherwise, I wanted to introduce myself. You may call me Daski. I am an Indoraptorkin, and I am also Tangled's Rapunzel-hearted. So, wanted to get that out of the way. Also, if you aren't aware what an Indoraptor is, I am... You're gonna hear me back up a whole bunch, so sorry guys. An Indoraptor is from the Jurassic World series. If you have not seen it, think of it as 3 parts raptor, 2 parts Tyrannosaurus Rex. You will hear me reference that a couple of times. Yes, I will tell you my experiences about being kin and hearted. I can't talk, so you guys are allowed to laugh at me if I do a complete slurring of my words. But I wanted to start off with doing a quick rundown of the terminology so we are all on one page and we are talking about the same language when we are going through this. Also, y'all are welcome to unmute yourselves and join the voice chat if you would like. Again, if you would please ping me in the QA channel if you have any questions that you want me to touch upon, please do so. For our first definition, we are going to do Fictionkin. I'm sure many of you are, but for people who are not aware or who are still questioning, a Fictionkin is a human who identifies as a person, creature, or a race from fiction on a non-physical level. They may believe they are a specific character or non-canon character of the same race or world. This identification may be based on spiritual beliefs, psychological beliefs, or something in between. Fictionkin do not choose their identities consciously. For humans who choose non-human identities consciously, that's a coping link or an other link. I will not be touching on what a coping link is, unfortunately, just because I want to keep the chat moving. For Fictionhearted, Fictionhearted is identifying strongly with a fictional character or species, but not identifying as them. I will post in the panel chat, where I got my sources from. That is those two. I will also post those in the panel sources, and actually, I'm not allowed to. Oh well. I have notes. I thought I was going to be more organized than this. I guess I'm not. Yeah. All right. So, I really wanted to host this panel because I feel like Fictionkin has a lot of misinformation both within and without our community, especially without our community. Fictionkin is a very important identifier for a lot of people, and that can also lean towards fiction-hearted individuals. And it gets sullied really badly by Trollkin, or by, not Trollkin, I'm sorry, Wishkin or Tumblrkin. If anybody is Trollkin in the chat, I am so sorry, I did not read that. um, but you see it, if you see it a lot, you know what I'm talking about with the trolls, and it makes a lot of Fictionkin really question themselves, and I want to kind of help as this panel to help people feel more secure in their decisions and in their identifying. Um, so I kind of wanted to begin with, how do you tell? Because that is something that's really hard to kind of come by, because when you wonder if you are an animal, you can kind of connect to that through human primal nature on top of how you feel otherwise. But when you're Fictionkin, it feels even less valid, because one of the things that I've noticed is people feel like you're stealing their characters from them, or stealing concepts from major media. But you kind of have to get rid of that self-criticism, because you're not, and these people don't understand the things that you are going through, or the things that you experience, and they can't, because they are individuals just as we are, but we are individuals with different identifications, you know? So to get to the brain died. Yay, brain died. Sorry, I got stuck in chat, and then my brain just like the train off the track into a building. So, all right, I'll just jump into to identify how I figured this out. Because that's where my brain is leaping to, and I know somebody asked about it, so it's great jumping off point. Ever since I was a child, I have had the feeling that I was a dinosaur. I was that kid on the playground, roaring at people, growling at people, biting at people, you know. I have a phantom tail that is permanent. I always feel it. It's right there. Um, I just thought I was a weird person, you know, because I didn't find the Otherkin community until about 3 years ago. Um, but when I was always attracted to the Jurassic Park movies. That was my thing. That was I had all the dinosaur toys. I watched the movies on loop, and I always felt like I related more to the dinosaurs than the people. When Fallen Kingdom came out, it was like was I felt like something was there. I didn't know what it was, but when I saw it a second time, the pieces started to fall together. And I'm like, that movement is familiar. That sound is familiar. I've heard it before, but I couldn't place where. It wasn't until I had an interaction when I was at work, that I used to work in a bakery, and it was attached to a deli. Someone in the deli was doing dishes and started tapping off a spoon, you know, clang, clang, clang on the side of like the dishwasher or the sink. But it sounded the exact same way that the Indoraptor taps its toenail on the ground. And my first reaction was to reply with a tap. I couldn't, of course, but that's when it solidified in my head. oh my god, this is a thing. That is what it is. But I continued to question it because it just felt a little too coincidental, but it also felt too uncoincidental until I got the DVD. And the DVD had behind the scenes making, and there was a walk loop just on screen of the Indoraptor, and it was walking on two legs. I'm like, that's it. I remember walking like that. I remember the motions, how it felt. Jaws, and it's just cool. On the flip side, Rapunzel is my hearted. Oh yeah, Polly. Yes, it does. Josh's are great. Um, when I first watched Tangled, if you guys haven't seen Tangled, I wholeheartedly go watch it. um, I fell in love with Rapunzel like I never liked. I have never liked princess movies ever before. But when I watched Rapunzel in Tangled, I knew there's something here. But it's not, she's not me and I'm not her. It's more, I feel like I should have been in this world. Why wasn't I in this world? I have a longing, I have Hiraeth for it. But I know for certain that I wasn't there. I wasn't a part of that story. And that's why when I learned of the hearted definition, I'm like, that's what that is. That's what that is. And so when I define hearted, I say it's you should be the thing, but you aren't, and it can be very frustrating. But you should be the thing. And that's why brain died. Now, Apex, I do want to say that I have strong Hiraeth about Morrowind and the Pokemon world, but I don't either I haven't found why I have that Hiraeth or I'm just there. or that's just my thing, is that I have Heraith because they were oh, what's the word? Nostalgic for me. I think I just have Heraith because they're nostalgic, not that I relate to the place. So you kind of have to sit back and introspect, why am I having this Heraith? And is it stronger than just Heraith? Do I long to be there because I long to be there, or is it because I have a connection to the world that's deeper than I want to be there? All right, I'm gonna go to the QA channel because I think I have pretty much. Okay, I've gone through all my points on my list. What if you kin to a species that is not mainstream, like an original species? I don't want to touch on that because there is a panel about that. However, I will very briefly touch on that for the original species because it comes up so much, and I did touch on it earlier, so I want to go back to that just very briefly. If it is an original species from like DA or FA, I would do so much introspection because people aren't always going to be friendly to that. If you do find that this is your thing, you can't help that. If they're hostile to it, avoid it. If they are welcoming to it, I would just be like, hey, I like your work, kind of work up to a relationship if you wanted to with that creator, if you can. I don't recommend it just because of the dichotomy between the creator and you as a fan. But again, I don't want to go any further into that because there is a panel about that. So I didn't want to step on any toes. Whenever you're taking questions, if you do you know anything about people who are both hearted and kin with the same thing? And how would you tell the difference between being only otherkin and being both? That is a difficult one because I don't have any experience with it. I think it requires a lot more introspection. For example, when I was questioning my Godkin type and my Indoraptor type, I had to do it so deeply because they're both reptilian, and I thought that they overlapped to the point of being redundant. But when I finally went, no, they're very different, I couldn't ignore that they were different. Train went off the track again. But that's what I would say is just introspection, because if after introspection you have the results that you're both hearted and kin, it could just be that your kin is just that much more important to you. But I don't want to disregard someone's questioning if they've seriously questioned themselves on how important that is to them, being both. I just don't have any more on that one. I'm sorry. Yeah, we lost. Difference between a hearted and psychological. So psychological Fictionkin is going to be where you become Fictionkin, not become. You are Fictionkin for several different kinds of reasons, because you imprinted, because this was it became so that's imprinted. I unfortunately don't have a psychological Fictionkin. I've been questioning it, but I don't think that applies to me. So I don't want to say I am your best person to go to, but I feel like there is a hard line where the psychological Fictionkin and the hearted divide, because if a hearted becomes, or a relation to a media becomes so ingrained with you, then it becomes Fictionkin rather than hearted. Now, here's something that I forgot that was on my to-do list and I forgot it. Story characters are meant to be relatable. We are meant to be able to take these interactions with these characters and go, I see myself in that. And it takes a lot of questioning to go, this is me, rather than I like this a lot because this person relates to me. Like, let me go back to Rapunzel. I share so many relations with her that I feel like I could have been in her shoes, but because I don't feel like I am her, it's different. You're gonna ask me to continue on that one, but that's where, just off the top of my head, that one stops for me personally, but I can elaborate if you have a question further about it. Are there particular methods or techniques you recommend for people starting their journey of self-discovery? I think it doesn't really divest much from questioning any other sort of otherkin, other than you have to remember that these characters are supposed to be relatable. So you have to take a step even further back and go, is it just because I like this character? Or is it because I feel like I am and I relate to this person as a person? I'm questioning Tieflingkin. Is that a Fictionkin because it's a species used in D&D? It could be. I feel like a Tiefling, because it is a fictional media, could be a Fictionkin. However, if you also wanted to go the direction of OCkin, then that is something that is up to you. It depends on your own personal taste. Because if you think of it like the definitional tree, like they define animals on. I'm blanking on what the word is. Above OCkin would probably be the Tieflingkin, because, or the original, no, blah, blah, blah. Above OC is going to be your fiction, because it is based on a fictional species. So that's, you can do both. You can do the one. It's up to your personal taste. Apikira, that one is going to be, it is the very first question that is in the QA channel. I am going to add a reaction to it. Whoopsies. That's not the one that I wanted, but I added a reaction to it for you. All right, the last question here, to go along with the question above from Ruffled, could having memories of beings a character be used to determine if it's true kin type or heart type? Fictionhearted, I don't have any memories as Rapunzel. I don't think that she was a past life. I feel like I should have been there, but that is why I think it's hearted rather than a kin type, because I don't have any reference of having been her at all. You could use memories to see whether it's a kin type or a heart type, because going on definition, if you feel like the kin type is a past life that continues. Sorry about that. Hold on, you guys. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, if you have memories that place a past life as a current influence of your current life, that could probably lean you toward Fictionkin rather than Fictionhearted. Not sure if you've already talked about this. I'd love to hear some thoughts on canon compliancy of being held up as a thing that makes someone valid. I don't like canon compliancy because if you believe that you are from one of the many multiverse, which is my take on how I am Fictionkin, then there are an infinite amount of realities. Your validity in being a Fictionkin is if you have thought about it yourself and you have come to the conclusion that this is how I feel, and I hate canon compliancy because not everybody has memories. Not everybody has the ability to say, I am this specific, I did all of these things, because every Fictionkin that I have seen, that I've interacted with personally, have had something that is not canon compliant. So if you want to take it from me, the valid, I'm air quoting, for your validity is not tied to canon compliancy. I feel like it's just gatekeepy, and it's kind of disgusting if I really want to be thorough about that, because how can there only be one person, but we all have these experiences, you know? But no, that was a very good question, Halefaced. I love that you asked that, because I would never have thought to go on that. And that goes for hearted types too. If you feel like your hearted type was different than the canon, that's fine. Next up, we know the answer to this varies, but we'd like your opinion. How would you personally tell if memories are real or imagined? This is so difficult. I have one memory, and that's from my Godkin type. Not even my Indoraptor type. So, it came out of nowhere when I was doing something so specific that it shouldn't have come up, but it did in relation to what happened, because train went off the track again. How to tell if memories are real or imagined? This is going to, again, like you mentioned, it's going to change because people have different ways that their brains work. If you feel like the memory was real, it probably was, in my opinion. My definition of how to decide if it's real or not is it relevant? How strong was it? If you can write it down and come back to it and still remember basically everything that you had there, then it was real. Now again, I'm going to make that pretty clear. There are people who have some issues with memory, so they cannot distinguish real from imagined. And I don't want that to... How do I want to say this? I don't want that to make their memories invalid, because if they have these memories, they are still real. They are real to them. I guess the best way to go about it is to, again, write it down. If you can come right back to it in a few months and remember all those details again, it was likely real. Otherwise, who's really to say what your imagined ones were? It's just how the human brain works, and unfortunately we all have human brains. I'm not a psychologist. I want to put that out there, but that is my experience and what I have seen from other people who have responded to similar. So the next one, if I'm not mistaken, how was it that the Na'vi and the story of those identifying before the movie got out, and the movie confirmed it for quite a group? I remember hearing about this. Yay, brain died again. Let me reread this just to make sure that I have it exactly how I want. I think I understand this. So, how was the Na'vi and the story of those identifying before the movie? So, okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, and Hank, correct me if I'm not reading this correctly. This is one of the big ways that Fictionkin individuals relate to normies, if we can call them that, is with memories from before their source came out. Especially, I've heard this with Harry Potter. I've heard this with, of course, the Avatar. All sorts of games. Essentially, what it is if you ascribe to the multiverse theory, it's because you came from that verse before and basically came back here. So when people are looking for their kin type, they don't have a reference for it. And when that media comes out, all of a sudden they have a name for it. And it doesn't make anybody more or less valid, but it is extremely intriguing. Because I sort of go along with that too, because I had experiences as this critter that I didn't have a name for. Hank, if I didn't touch on that quite correctly, you are welcome to expand on it with more questions in the QA. Have you experienced a shift as a kith? So, if we are equating kith with hearted, because my understanding of kith is a little different, I have not experienced any shifts for Rapunzel. I feel closer to her when I see her, but I don't experience any long hair. I don't experience any personality, but it feels. I feel happy when I see her because she's so full of joy and hope. Things get tiring here in this world. So, which aspects of Rapunzel lead you to determine that it's a heart type? I could make a list. Her life in abstract lines up with mine. The flight from the cage, the overbearing parent, the I'm tearing up a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. The meeting of a person who is very special to them. But the thing is that even though these things they're parallel to me, not as me, just parallel. If that answers your question and I read it correctly. I'm questioning a TV show character I've seen many times before, but only recently was hit strong kin feelings. Oh yeah. So my thought on this matter is that only recently did something kind of click. Like with me and my Indoraptor, it could have clicked way earlier with the raptors and their sounds, but because now when I hear the raptor sounds, I want to interact with them. Now that I have a baseline of experience. But that's kind of what you need is you need that baseline of experience to kind of line up all of those puzzle pieces in your head. And this is like with some people who have never had experiences before and then come out, just they see a media and go, holy crap, that fits. You need a baseline to reference to even start experiencing. So what my thought is, you've seen that show many times, but current life experiences and how your brain continues to mature and experience the world at large just kind of lined up those pieces and goes, wait a second, holy crap, that's a thing. And maybe sometimes that's more of a psychological thing, rather than like a past life, current life thing. But it's something to think about. But yeah, to answer your question, it's the baseline. You need the baseline to kind of jump you into the deep end, so to speak. Next question. If you get an injury in canon, can you experience phantom pains? I believe that. Just as you have phantom shifts, you can have phantom pains. Now, I want to very strongly hazard, because this is something that is huge within the community. If you are having real physical pain, please get it checked out by a doctor. Phantom pains, where it kind of, you can focus it away, or if it comes with an experience or comes with a shift, then yeah, I can totally see that. Because what's the brain going to differ between having a tail and having an open wound? I'm sorry if that's a little graphic for some individuals, but that's, sorry, my first thought. But yeah, I totally think that would be something. Next one. Do you think that identifying as or with something can make you just escape from the world and be in your own reality? So this is actually a thing. This is called maladaptive daydreaming. I think it's maladaptive something. I think it's maladaptive daydreaming, and that's something that, then yeah, I've totally had that before. That was my teenagehood. I would definitely check into that if that sounds like something that you maladaptive daydreaming. So maladaptive daydreaming, what that is you basically escape into your own head world. Either, like, for example, mine when I was a teenager was I would escape into, if not my own world, where I had characters and my sona was based on my godkin type, and I could play out all sorts of fantasies there and be in control of an otherwise uncontrolled life. I had ones where I lived as a character in Ghost in the Shell. I had ones where I lived as a character in Fullmetal Alchemist. It's basically what it is you escape into these worlds where you can then be in control, you can live in those lives, but you don't necessarily have to identify as or with anybody in that world. You kind of just like put yourself there. My biggest one is my own personal world where I created whole species and stuff, But yeah, I would definitely look into the clinical way of it, the clinical definition of maladaptive daydreaming. When I saw the term, I'm like, oh my god, I did that all as a teen, totally fit. But I also feel like it was different from my being Fictionkin or Fictionhearted, because it's just completely two different things. At least when I made introspection into it. If you could go back in time and give a younger you advice on when you first awakened related to this, what would it be? I would open with, you are not weird. Because I thought I was just the weird kid. I was in special ed because I had some trauma, and I acted out, and I bit people, and I roared at people, and it was disruptive to the class, and I would lead, you are not weird. You have a thing. Eventually, I learned to suppress it because it wasn't conducive to the environment that I was in. And I will never say that repressing anything about yourself is good. Sometimes it is how you make yourself safe. But that would be my next thing, is make sure that you are safe first and foremost. Because you're not weird, you're just in a place where you can't be safe and do this thing. So those are the questions that I had in the QA. If you guys wait, what's this? It's alright to chime in some more. It's too important to be a Kith type. Kith type's gonna be great. Yes. If you guys haven't seen the panel sources and info, that is very good. I define Kith types as different, just because of how I've seen it defined than a heart type. But I do know that a lot of people, for a lot of people, heart type and Kith type are the same, it's the same thing. Mine, I define it a little different, but yeah, that is a really good post for that. All right, I am back in the normal chat. If you guys wanted to join me on Voice, you are more than welcome to. I've exhausted all of my chatter, and we've got about 15 minutes. So, I'm gonna scroll through. Hello.
Yo.
I was gonna say that y'all can unmute, by the way, if you guys want to go ahead and say anything.
Yes.
This is the panel.
Okay, I see something about dissociative disorders. Dissociative disorders are different than MAD because dissociative disorders is where you don't feel real, or you don't feel like you are the person you are, and that is actually quite different than being Fictionkin or Fictionhearted. I would definitely look into the clinical definitions of things if they feel like my explanation was similar to something that you have experienced, but that's fine. Definitely, please look into the actual medical definitions before you take anything seriously within us. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, you guys.
Really long, complicated journey in my life, honestly. So it's just kind of weird. If anybody has any questions about anything, I'd love to talk on DMs, but I don't know right now.
Yeah,
I choked on water.
I've been kind of floating in and out. My apologies. I had to eat, but it was very interesting to hear, and I'm very curious because a lot of things I saw a lot of parallels with those that do self-insertion daydreaming. You know, where you see any kind of media, you rebuild that entire world in your head with yourself inserted either as an additional character or as one of the existing characters.
Oh, I forgot the most important part of why it's maladaptive. You choose to do this instead of, it's maladaptive because you're doing it unhealthily. Like, you choose to go to this world in your head rather than deal with things outside. And that's not to say that it's a bad coping mechanism. I am saying that it is maladaptive because it is a disorder. Yeah.
You missed that part.
Yeah, I did miss that part. I am so sorry.
It's a heavy topic. You did fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great panel, man.
Thank you very much.
Did you guys have any questions that you feel I didn't touch on? Because Fictionkin is such a huge, it's a huge topic, and one that I really wanted to touch on. As someone who is Fictionkin in the community on Tumblr, it's so rife with misinformation, and so many people who go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's a very misconstrued understanding that people have about what Fictionkin are, and as somebody who's actually been Fictionkin and was misinformed a lot when I started, so I had a way longer list, and it's whittled down to things I actually am over time.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to ask if, like, you think there's some reason that younger kins that don't fully understand how it works just yet are so prone to latching on to. I've seen like lists of like 72 different characters.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and how people just seem to launch into it and stuff like that. I'd just like to add to that.
So it's when you're a teenager, you're trying to find anything that feels correct. You're in a really bad time of your life. For many of us, I would hazard a guess. You are looking for that familial connection with these characters in a media that you enjoy. I feel like that is the biggest reason why people may misconstrue being a thing for liking a thing. And I don't want to say that it's invalid, because these characters are created to be uh, representative. They're supposed to resonate with us. And it just, when you're at that turbulent part of your life, you try to find anything that can match.
And I really agree with that, because back whenever I was in that stage of finding myself, I think like there's a lot of misinformation that goes on, and I'm glad that there's things like this that can help people understand stuff like this better. Um but I think at that point in my life, I also trudged through a lot of misinformation and stuff, because there's just like no real pointing arrows as to what is right. It just
Mm-hmm.
seems there's a lot of just, it seems like a more of a wild west of what the definition of what it means to be otherkin is throughout Tumblr and stuff like that.
Tumblr is hard, because you can reblog the wrong things, never see the correction.
Yeah, just to elaborate on what you said, like, I don't mean to pull out my dumb uh obsessive history on comic book characters, but Spider-Man was actually originally written as a teenager, so he would be relatable to the intended audience. He
Yep.
was designed to be related to, and that's actually a recurring theme in Into the Spider-Verse. If you look into that, they talk about you can be that anybody can be that. You just got to put on the mask. It's part of it.
Yep.
But it it's different to actually be a specific spider than it would be to just be a spider. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it normal to be frustrated when questioning something like, why don't I just know? Yes, 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 yes. This goes for Fictionkin and any other kin. Um, Sometimes your brain just doesn't have the pieces that it needs. Sometimes you haven't been um, exposed to the thing that you are, so you don't have a baseline again. Um, when I was searching for my Godkin type, I still am frustrated, just because there are some mental barriers that I have figured it out. Was I cutting out for you guys?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sorry. I noticed my little light wasn't shining. But yeah, I've definitely felt frustrated. And I think that's a universal feeling. It's very normal. All right, I know Jasper has a question. If you wanted to hop on and I can. Yeah, go ahead. Ha, there I go, jumping in the wrong channel again. And Parker, you make a very in the QA channel. Parker makes a very, 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 very good point. Very good point. Jasper, if you wanted to just type out your question and don't have to deal with the voice chat, you are more than welcome to.
It's push to talk, Jasper. You need to specifically set push to talk on your Discord.
Yeah. Or you have to restart Discord to get the actual like voice chat.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult. It's probably faster just to type it out at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask it for you if you want it in the vocal recording.
Yeah. We can do that too. Or I can read it off when we get it.
Yeah, that works. Did you catch that?
So my question was, how do you differentiate between a deep relatability to a character from a kin? I'm going to tell you that is super hard. Is I feel like I keep going back to things that I've already said, and I'm sorry if it's not helpful. But I did kind of want to apply Rapunzel. Because I have so many of these deep relatabilities with her, how I can tell the difference between you're fine, Jasper. The difference between just being relatable and why she's a heart type is because I have that closeness of feeling like I should have been there. I should be this thing and I'm not. And someone else chime in if you feel like that's a wrong way of saying that, but I feel like that's a big way to say, oh, I just like this thing, or it's just this really resonates with me, rather than being a heart type. That's also true, Ronnie. The sense of should be, and I guess it comes down to how much you introspect and really feel out yourself for am I and should be, because they can feel very similar. And it's something to struggle with for a while. Oh no, Jasper, that's I do that too. The something frustrating happening in the show. So I kind of avoided saying this because it was just going to be a little more confusing. I have been questioning synpath, which is a different definition with Sypha from Castlevania. And my only real connection with Sypha at this point is that when I look at a picture of Sypha, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror. And it's so strong that I'm like, I have no other points of reference except for that. So if that throws a wrench in everything, I'm sorry if I threw a wrench in everything, but I also wanted to share that experience because it's good to hear how different people have different experiences with how things are, and that's why we make these terms. And I don't know if that was helpful whatsoever, but yeah. So 5 more minutes. Sure, Parker. What would you like to ask? Synpath has its own definition. I didn't have the definition pulled up. I am so sorry because I didn't want to bring it in. I think the coiner is actually in the chat. If they have the definition at hand, that would be great. Because I don't want to screw up the definition. So is it possible to be psychological kin with fictional characters? And if so, yes. Because that character imprinted, like if you roleplayed that character, or if you identified so strongly with that character that now it becomes inseparable from you, that is when I would start questioning psychological kin. Does anyone else have the kin type is, but they just feel vaguely not human? Yes, Bloss. Yes, yes, yes. And that's fine. You can take on the title of alterhuman if you feel that fits you until you find something else. Internal knowing and memory versus knowing, I really relate to the thing, like the mirror idea. Internal knowing and memory. So I don't have any memories of Sypha. It's just like I feel this thing and I have a reaction. So unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for that one, Doms. Cause like touching again on Sypha, I don't actually relate too much with her. I just have this weird mirror thing, and it's weird. What exactly is the difference between a true fiction kin and a psychological kin? So you can be both. You can be a psychological fiction kin, because a fiction kin is just identifying as a fictional character. Unless I'm misreading the definition of psychological kin, because you can be psychological fiction kin. For return, the definitions coined by individuals who provided a quick explanation for some. I did put my my sources in the panel, or did they get copied over? No, they didn't. I'm sorry, and I don't have pinning. My sources here. I'll grab you guys my sources again. My sources are here. But yeah, 2 minutes before Pale Greenwood is up, I hope you guys join his panel because that's going to be great as well.
Thank you for speaking for us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for you guys coming. I felt like it was a very important thing to bring up, and I'm glad you guys agreed with me and were here for it. Thank you so much.